The queen inquired, "Who is this man?" The alien princess smiled. HFY Stories. The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, a silent ocean of light, each one whispering secrets of distant worlds. Captain Elias Varn stood at the edge of the human starship's observation deck, staring at the glowing expanse before him. He had spent years preparing for this moment, years dreaming of contact with another intelligent species, yet nothing in the Academy had truly prepared him for the weight of the unknown. The ship shivered lightly beneath him as it approached the coordinates of the alien empire, a place humans had only heard of in cautious stories. The aliens were known for their strict hierarchies, their advanced technology, and their unyielding traditions. To meet them was to walk on a knife's edge, but Elias carried a quiet determination in his heart, a determination born from humanity's stubborn belief that intelligence, compassion, and resilience could overcome even the coldest mysteries of the universe. The landing bay of the alien palace was unlike anything Elias had ever imagined. The structure stretched high above the ground, towers spiraling like frozen storms, reflective surfaces capturing the starlight in dazzling patterns. The human's ship settled gently on a platform that seemed to hover effortlessly, held in place by forces Elias barely understood. As the ramp descended, he felt the gaze of unseen eyes upon him. Every movement he made was being watched, measured, judged. He straightened his shoulders, reminding himself that he was not merely a representative of Earth but a living example of human potential. He stepped onto the platform. The air was crisp and charged with energy, and he felt a slight vibration beneath his feet as the palace itself seemed alive, resonating with a subtle power. Figures moved through the grand hallways ahead, tall, elegant beings whose presence carried authority and grace. Their skin shimmered with colors Elias could not name, and their eyes held knowledge that seemed older than the stars themselves. Silence greeted him, a silence that pressed on his chest, yet he did not falter. He had faced tense situations before, but nothing like this. This was a test of more than courage. It was a test of humanity itself. As he approached the central chamber, two guards moved aside without a word. The room opened before him like a painting of a world both familiar and utterly alien. The walls were adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow as if alive, and the floor glimmered with a soft, iridescent light. At the far end of the hall sat the queen, her posture regal and unyielding. She was tall and commanding, her presence radiating authority that seemed to bend the air around her. The weight of her gaze was immediate, and Elias felt the gravity of centuries of tradition pressing down upon him. He could sense the importance of this moment, how his every action would be interpreted, recorded, remembered. The queen's voice was calm yet carried a sharpness that cut through the silence. "Who is this man?" she asked, her tone measured but edged with curiosity. It was not hostility, not exactly. It was a question that weighed like stone, demanding an answer that would define him in their eyes. Elias held her gaze steadily, taking a breath before he spoke. "I am Captain Elias Varn of Earth," he said clearly, his voice firm but respectful. "I come as an envoy, seeking understanding and cooperation between our worlds." And yet, amidst the formality and the unspoken danger, there was a presence that made him pause, a presence that did not radiate judgment or suspicion. At the edge of the room, leaning slightly against a carved pillar, stood the alien princess, Leora. Her expression was serene, but her eyes held a spark of curiosity, a quiet amusement that set her apart from the rest. When she smiled, it was almost imperceptible, a gentle acknowledgement that Elias was more than just a stranger. She seemed to see something in him that others did not, something worth noticing, worth understanding. The queen's gaze did not waver. "An envoy?" she asked, the single word carrying centuries of authority. "You claim to represent a species that we know little of. And yet you stand here unarmed, unshielded, trusting in words alone. Why should we believe you?" Elias met her eyes without hesitation. He knew that lies or grand promises would gain him nothing here. If he was to succeed, he would need to demonstrate the qualities that defined humanity: intelligence, integrity, and courage. "Because words are the first step," he replied, his voice steady. "We have not come to conquer nor to impose. We seek to understand, to learn, and to find common ground. Humanity has survived against odds that were thought impossible. We have faced extinction, chaos, and the unknown, and we continue to endure. That endurance has taught us much about cooperation, problem-solving, and the value of life, both our own and others. We offer these lessons and seek to learn yours." Her tone carried a gentle authority that seemed to balance the queen's stern presence. Elias felt a wave of relief, though he knew this was only a small victory. The princess's gesture was not acceptance but a signal, an invitation to show that humanity's words could be matched by action. The queen's eyes flicked to Leora briefly, then returned to Elias. "Very well," she said. "You may remain. But know this, every action, every word will be measured. The court watches closely, and missteps are not easily forgiven. If you are to earn our respect, you must prove that your species possesses qualities beyond mere survival." Elias nodded. He understood. This was not just diplomacy. It was a trial, a test of the human spirit itself, against standards that were both alien and exacting. Elias was guided further into the palace, where a series of chambers awaited, rooms filled with technology that blended seamlessly with artistry, spaces where information and beauty were inseparable. He observed devices that could manipulate matter with a thought, systems that mapped entire star systems in real time, and archives that held knowledge accumulated over millennia. Yet amidst all this, he did not feel insignificant. If anything, he felt a spark of determination. Humanity had built ships to traverse the stars, systems to communicate across light years, and civilizations capable of remarkable adaptation. He could not allow fear or doubt to cloud his mission. The aliens might be older, their technology more advanced, but humanity had its own strengths: ingenuity, morality, and the courage to face the unknown with an open heart. As the hours passed, Elias was introduced to advisors and officials, each interaction a careful dance of observation and response. Questions were asked, riddles presented, and principles tested. He answered each with patience, honesty, and creativity, aware that every response shaped the court's perception of humanity. Some looked at him with skepticism, others with curiosity, but through it all, Leora's quiet smile remained, a silent encouragement that human potential could indeed shine through even the most scrutinizing eyes. The final chamber of the day was vast and circular, with a high ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Here, the queen met him once more. She walked slowly, each step deliberate, her eyes scanning Elias with a precision that was almost tangible. "Captain Varn," she said at last, "you have survived the first day. That is no small feat, yet survival is only the beginning. What you represent must endure our scrutiny, and in doing so, you must show what makes your species worthy of attention." Elias bowed slightly, understanding the weight of her words. "We will not fail," he said simply. Humanity has never failed when faced with challenges that require courage, thought, and heart. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried a promise that within this palace of ancient power, humanity had a chance not only to be seen but to be understood. Elias knew the road ahead would be difficult, full of trials and unseen dangers. But in that smile, he felt the first glimmer of hope, that perhaps humans could not only survive among the stars but leave a mark of wisdom, courage, and light in worlds far beyond their own. As night fell over the alien palace, its towers gleaming under the starlight, Elias felt a strange mix of awe and determination. He had crossed a threshold few humans had ever approached. The queen had questioned him, the court had observed, and the princess had smiled. This was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new questions, and new challenges. Yet as he looked out across the endless expanse of stars, he knew one truth with certainty: humanity had arrived, and it would not be underestimated. The first part of the journey was complete, but the story of understanding, respect, and the triumph of human ingenuity across the stars was only beginning. The morning light filtered through the tall, crystalline windows of the alien palace, casting long, shimmering patterns across the floor. Captain Elias Varn stood in the central hall, still adjusting to the grandeur and subtle strangeness of the place. He had spent the previous day navigating the initial test of his presence, and now a new day promised challenges of a different kind. The air seemed charged, almost alive, as if the palace itself awaited his next move. Every step he took echoed in the vast hallways, each sound carrying the weight of scrutiny. He knew that the court would be watching, waiting to see whether humanity could match the intelligence, discipline, and wisdom of this alien civilization. Princess Leora appeared beside him quietly, as though she had been watching him from the shadows. Her presence was calming, yet it carried a quiet energy that Elias found strangely reassuring. "You did well yesterday," she said softly, her voice blending curiosity and encouragement. "Many here doubt what humans can do, others are intrigued. You must show them more than words today. You must show them what humans are capable of." Elias nodded, appreciating her insight. It was clear that Leora understood the balance of power and perception in her court better than anyone else. Her guidance would be invaluable, even if she could not openly influence the Queen's decision. The first test of the morning was a series of puzzles presented by the Council of Scholars, a group of tall, slender aliens whose eyes glimmered like polished gemstones. Each puzzle was designed to measure logic, creativity, and adaptability. Elias approached the first one, a complex geometric arrangement that shifted subtly when touched. Many humans might have been overwhelmed by the alien symbols and unfamiliar logic patterns, but Elias focused on the patterns beneath the surface. He observed the relationships, traced the shapes in his mind, and found a sequence that unlocked the first mechanism. The device responded with a soft hum, lights spiraling across its surface as the doors to the next chamber opened. The scholars observed him quietly, their expressions unreadable. One of them inclined its head slightly, a gesture Elias took as acknowledgement. Princess Leora smiled faintly, a gesture that seemed almost imperceptible, yet Elias felt a surge of confidence. This palace was more than stone and light. It was a living classroom, a place where the mind and spirit were tested as much as the body. Each trial was designed not to harm, but to reveal character, judgment, and perseverance. Elias realized that his human instincts, curiosity, patience, and observation, were just as important as any technical skill. The second challenge was unlike the first. Elias was led into a room where holographic projections filled the space. He could see entire landscapes, alien cities, and scenarios involving both humans and aliens. The task was to navigate a conflict scenario where misunderstandings could quickly escalate into dangerous outcomes. Elias noticed that most of the projected figures acted according to predictable logic, following rigid protocols. He paused, considering a different approach. Instead of trying to dominate the situation, he focused on communication, understanding, and compromise. He spoke softly, guiding the holographic humans and aliens toward mutual understanding. At first, the projections seemed to resist, stubborn in their programmed responses, yet gradually they began to respond to his reasoning. Conflicts diffused, solutions emerged, and the room responded with a quiet resonance that indicated success. Princess Leora watched intently, her eyes reflecting approval. "You see the solution not in force, but in understanding," she whispered. "That is something many of us have forgotten." Elias felt a deep sense of connection, not only with Leora but with the possibilities of bridging worlds through empathy and intelligence. The next test was physical but not violent. Elias was guided to a chamber filled with intricate machinery, devices that appeared to operate on energy sources beyond human comprehension. The challenge was to navigate the space, avoiding hazards while manipulating devices to achieve a specific goal. At first, the complexity seemed overwhelming. Panels shifted, lights pulsed, and some machines responded to touch, while others required precise timing. Elias took a deep breath and observed, letting his instincts guide him. Step by step, he moved carefully, learning the rhythm of the devices, adapting to the patterns, and using his human intuition to solve problems that were entirely unfamiliar. By the end, he had successfully completed the task, and the subtle hum of machines echoed like applause. After the trials, Elias was escorted to a quieter part of the palace. Here, he finally had a moment to breathe, to reflect on the challenges and the reactions of the court. Leora joined him again, her presence like a calm current amidst the tension. "You are doing well," she said. "But tomorrow will be harder. The Queen watches not only your success but your approach. She values courage, patience, and the willingness to adapt. Humans have shown resilience before, but here, it must be proven in ways that are both visible and subtle." Elias nodded, understanding the depth of her words. This was not merely a test of knowledge or skill, but a demonstration of humanity itself, the ability to face the unknown with integrity and ingenuity. As the day progressed, Elias was introduced to other members of the court, scientists, strategists, and diplomats who observed his every move. Some were openly skeptical, questioning why an unarmed human had been allowed into the palace at all. Others seemed quietly fascinated, intrigued by his calm approach to challenges that might have intimidated or overwhelmed lesser beings. Elias realized that every gesture, every decision, and every response contributed to the court's perception of humanity. He was not merely a visitor, he was a symbol of his species' potential. The final trial of the day was presented directly by Princess Leora. She led him into a room that appeared empty at first, but soon projections and holograms emerged, creating a complex puzzle that combined logic, ethics, and strategy. Elias was given the task of resolving a simulated conflict between two alien factions, each with its own history, priorities, and demands. At first, the puzzle seemed impossible, as every choice carried potential consequences. But Elias paused, drawing on lessons from his own world, listening before acting, seeking compromise, and finding creative solutions that honored all parties. Hours passed as he worked, tracing paths, testing outcomes, and adjusting his approach. The projections shifted, adapted, and responded to his decisions. Slowly, a resolution emerged, one that balanced the needs of both factions without unnecessary sacrifice. When he completed the task, the room fell silent for a moment. Then the projections dissipated, leaving only Elias and Leora. She stepped forward, her eyes bright with approval. "You have shown understanding, patience, and ingenuity," she said. "These are qualities that many here value, but few can demonstrate in the face of uncertainty. You may be a human, but you carry what is rare even among us, wisdom guided by empathy. Yet the path ahead is long. The court will continue to observe, and only through continued demonstration of skill, intelligence, and character will humanity earn true respect." Elias met her eyes, understanding the gravity of her words. This was not praise but recognition of possibility. Humanity had a chance, but it was still only the beginning. Even as the day ended, Elias' mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. He had faced challenges that tested not only his intelligence but his character. He had navigated alien technology, solved complex ethical dilemmas, and found ways to communicate understanding across species boundaries. And throughout it all, he had Leora's quiet support, a reminder that sometimes trust and insight could be as powerful as knowledge or skill. He knew that tomorrow would bring new trials, new tests of endurance, and new opportunities to prove what humans could achieve. As he retired to his chambers, a small window revealed the palace towers against the backdrop of distant stars. The city below pulsed with alien light, a living testament to an advanced civilization. Elias felt a mixture of awe and determination. Humanity had entered a world that was vast, complex, and ancient, yet he believed in the strength of human creativity, courage, and spirit. He had taken the first steps, and now the journey of understanding, respect, and collaboration continued. The challenges were far from over, but the first bonds of connection had been made, and with them came hope that humanity might not only survive among the stars but thrive and be recognized for its unique strengths. The night deepened, and the palace fell into a quiet rhythm. Elias sat by the window, reflecting on the trials of the day and the glimpses of the future that awaited him. The queen's scrutiny remained, the court continued to watch, and the path ahead was uncertain. Yet in the subtle smile of Princess Leora, he found reassurance. Humanity had a place here, if only it could prove the qualities that had allowed it to endure, innovate, and inspire. Tomorrow would bring new tests, but Elias was ready. He would continue to show that humans were not defined by fear or limitation, but by curiosity, courage, and an unyielding spirit. The first day of trials had ended, but the story of humanity's encounter with an advanced alien empire had only begun. The palace, the stars, and the unknown awaited, and Captain Elias Varn would face them with the intelligence, compassion, and resilience that defined his species. With every step, every decision, he would demonstrate what humans could accomplish, not through conquest, but through understanding, innovation, and the quiet strength of a spirit willing to reach beyond the stars. The palace was quiet in the early hours, yet the air carried a tension that even the soft hum of alien energy could not mask. Captain Elias Varn awoke with a sense of anticipation, knowing that each day brought new challenges, and that nothing here would be easy or predictable. Yesterday had tested his intelligence and adaptability, but today promised a deeper trial. The alien court was a place not only of knowledge but of politics, ambition, and subtle power. Elias had learned that respect could not be demanded, it had to be earned, and in this palace respect was both fragile and highly coveted. As he made his way to the central hall, he felt the eyes of the court upon him. Aliens of every form moved silently through the corridors, their expressions unreadable. Some regarded him with curiosity, others with suspicion, and a few with quiet admiration. Elias had come to understand that each gaze carried meaning. In this place, nothing was accidental. Every gesture, every word, and every decision was measured against centuries of tradition and the unspoken rules of the empire. The court was a living organism, and he was a single, unusual part within it. Princess Leora met him in a side corridor, her eyes bright with an intensity that both reassured and challenged him. "Today will test not only your mind but your judgment," she said softly. "There are those in the court who fear change, who will try to discredit you, even in subtle ways. You must remain steady, observe carefully, and respond wisely. Trust in your instincts and in the strengths of your species." Elias nodded, feeling both the weight and the guidance in her words. Leora had become more than an ally. She was a quiet force, a reminder that insight and intuition could sometimes accomplish more than overt skill or logic. The first part of the day involved a series of interactions designed to reveal character under pressure. Aliens from various factions approached Elias with questions, some straightforward, some deliberately misleading. They asked about human history, strategies, and even moral dilemmas, testing how he would respond to situations that had no clear answers. Elias answered honestly, relying not only on knowledge but on reasoning and empathy. He explained how humans had survived natural disasters, conflicts, and the challenges of space exploration through collaboration, creativity, and perseverance. He described moments where humans had chosen understanding over conflict, compromise over dominance, and long-term solutions over immediate gains. Each answer was scrutinized, analyzed, and noted, but Elias sensed that his words were beginning to resonate. As the morning wore on, he was led to a chamber where holographic simulations displayed complex social and political systems. Here, the task was to identify potential threats and advise on strategies for cooperation. The projections included alien factions with conflicting goals, historical tensions, and possible future crises. Elias studied the scenarios carefully, considering the motivations and likely responses of each faction. He suggested solutions that balanced interests, minimized conflict, and promoted trust. The court observed silently, their judgment precise and unyielding, yet subtle nods from a few indicated that they recognized the value in his approach. The turning point of the day came when Elias discovered a whisper of conspiracy. While moving through a quieter section of the palace, he overheard two advisors speaking in low tones. They spoke of plans to undermine the peace talks, to manipulate the court against humans, and to sabotage the growing trust between factions. Elias' mind raced. He knew that revealing the plot directly could cause panic, yet inaction could allow it to succeed. He had to act carefully, using the same principles that had guided him through the puzzles and simulations: observation, strategy, and ethical reasoning. He returned to Princess Leora and quietly explained what he had overheard. Her expression darkened, but she did not hesitate. "This is dangerous," she said. "If they discover that we know, they will act quickly. But you are correct. We must intervene. We cannot allow their ambition to endanger peace or harm the potential for cooperation between our peoples." Together, they devised a plan to subtly expose the plot while minimizing risk to themselves and others. They would use logic, timing, and communication to reveal the conspiracy without directly accusing anyone too soon, allowing the court to see the truth unfold on its own. The execution of the plan required patience and careful observation. Elias attended meetings, offering advice and insights that gently challenged the assumptions of the conspiring advisors. He framed questions in ways that revealed inconsistencies in their logic, drawing attention to their motivations without directly naming them. The court, trained in discernment, began to notice the subtle discrepancies, and murmurs of doubt spread quietly among the nobles. Elias maintained a calm demeanor, careful not to appear manipulative or arrogant. His goal was not to defeat the conspirators through force, but to allow truth, reason, and integrity to prevail naturally. By mid-afternoon, the conspiracy began to unravel. Advisors who had initially been skeptical of humans found themselves reconsidering Elias' perspective. The court observed the clarity and fairness in his reasoning, the way he approached problems not with aggression but with insight and creativity. Even those who had doubted him began to see the potential of a species that relied on intelligence, morality, and collaboration, rather than brute force or manipulation. Princess Leora's presence was invaluable, as she subtly guided the court's attention without drawing suspicion to herself or Elias. Her calm confidence amplified the impact of his actions, demonstrating that trust and alliances could be as powerful as authority and tradition. As evening approached, Elias was summoned to a private audience with the queen. The chambers were vast, illuminated by soft ambient light that reflected off walls of crystal-like surfaces. The queen's presence was imposing, yet there was a note of curiosity in her gaze. She spoke slowly, each word weighted with thought. "Captain Varn, your actions today have been observed carefully. You have demonstrated not only skill and intelligence, but judgment and patience. You have navigated challenges that would have overwhelmed many, and you have done so with integrity." Elias bowed slightly, acknowledging the recognition. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he replied. "I only seek to represent humanity as it truly is, resourceful, adaptable, and guided by principles of understanding and cooperation. There are those who still doubt. There are those who fear what your presence represents. Yet you have begun to show that humans are capable of more than mere survival. You embody qualities that are rare even among my people: courage guided by thought, wisdom tempered by empathy, and the ability to act decisively while considering consequences." Her words resonated deeply with Elias, not because of flattery, but because they acknowledged the essence of what humanity had achieved against tremendous odds. After the audience, Elias returned to his chambers, reflecting on the day's events. He had faced not only intellectual and ethical challenges, but the subtle currents of political intrigue. He realized that survival alone was not enough. Humans had to prove their worth through action, through consistent demonstration of character, and through the ability to navigate the complexities of relationships and society. The conspiracy he had uncovered was a reminder that even in advanced civilizations, ambition and fear could threaten progress, and that integrity and courage could make the difference between success and failure. Princess Leora joined him again as the evening shadows lengthened. "You have done well," she said, her tone carrying both pride and caution. "But tomorrow will bring new trials. There are elements in the court who will test your loyalty, your patience, and your understanding. You must remain vigilant, not only in your actions but in your perception. Watch, listen, and act when necessary. Humanity has shown potential, but it is only through continued demonstration that it will earn lasting respect." Elias nodded, absorbing her advice. He understood that the journey was far from over, and that the challenges ahead would require every ounce of his skill, observation, and moral reasoning. As night fell, the palace transformed into a quiet, almost meditative space. Towers glowed faintly against the dark sky, and corridors echoed with the soft sounds of life within. Elias looked out over the alien city, marveling at the harmony and complexity of a civilization that had thrived for millennia. Despite its grandeur and power, he knew that it was not infallible. Challenges existed even here, as they did on Earth, and the strength of any society lay in its ability to navigate uncertainty with wisdom and courage. Humanity, he realized, had its own strengths to offer: creativity, resilience, empathy, and the ability to bridge differences in ways that could transform conflict into cooperation. Elias reflected on the subtle smiles, the quiet gestures of trust, and the recognition he had begun to earn. The Queen had questioned him, the court had scrutinized him, and the conspiracy had threatened to undermine everything. Yet through observation, reasoning, and ethical action, he had managed to navigate the dangers, demonstrating the unique qualities of his species. Princess Leora's quiet guidance had been invaluable, but it was his own application of human ingenuity and morality that had made the difference. He knew that the coming days would bring more trials, perhaps even more dangerous tests of character. The palace was alive with intrigue, ambition, and careful calculation, and humans were still outsiders. Yet Elias felt a deep confidence that humanity had the capacity not only to survive in this environment, but to influence it positively. Through intelligence, empathy, and courage, they could demonstrate that humans were a species capable of growth, adaptation, and meaningful contribution to the galaxy. The night deepened, and Elias lay down to rest, his mind still active with thoughts of the day's events. He thought of the conspirators whose schemes had been quietly unraveled, the court members whose doubts had begun to shift, and the subtle but powerful smiles of Princess Leora. He knew that the road ahead would be long and challenging, but he also knew that humanity had taken a meaningful step toward recognition, understanding, and respect. As sleep overtook him, Elias dreamed not of fear or uncertainty, but of possibility. The galaxy was vast, and humanity's place within it was still being defined. Yet through courage, intellect, and moral integrity, humans could leave a mark not through conquest or dominance, but through understanding, cooperation, and the demonstration of true strength of character. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and he would face them with the same determination, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit that had brought him this far. The sun rose slowly over the alien palace, casting long beams of light that shimmered against the crystalline walls. Captain Elias Varn stood in the central courtyard, taking in the sights of the vast, strange city. Every tower and spire reflected the brilliance of the sun, while the streets below moved with a harmony that felt almost alive. It was a city built on precision, order, and knowledge, yet beneath its beauty, Elias could sense currents of tension. The court still watched him closely, and whispers of yesterday's events, the subtle unraveling of the conspiracy, had not yet faded. He knew that today would require even more skill, patience, and careful judgment than the day before. Humanity had begun to earn attention, but respect had yet to be truly granted. Princess Leora appeared silently beside him, her presence as calm and grounding as ever. "You have done well so far," she said, her voice carrying both warmth and quiet authority. "Many here are beginning to see your value, but there are still those who resist. The Queen herself is curious, yet cautious. She will test not only your abilities but your character, your loyalty, and the way you handle influence. Today will be about perception and integrity as much as skill." Elias nodded. He understood the stakes. This palace was not merely a physical space. It was a living test, where human qualities would be measured not only through action, but through observation, decision-making, and the subtle impact on those around him. The first challenge of the morning took him into the archives of insight, a vast chamber filled with holographic records that spanned centuries of the alien civilization. Elias was asked to analyze historical conflicts, identify patterns, and suggest strategies that might have prevented certain wars or resolved disputes peacefully. At first, the task seemed overwhelming. The information flowed like a river, overwhelming in its depth and complexity. Yet Elias approached it as he always did, calmly, methodically, and with a focus on understanding underlying principles rather than getting lost in details. He traced the causes of conflict, noticing patterns of misunderstanding, mistrust, and poor communication. He suggested strategies that balanced fairness with practicality, demonstrating how small gestures of compromise and diplomacy could have prevented major crises. As he presented his analysis to the scholars observing him, he emphasized not just logic, but the human ability to learn from mistakes and to apply creativity in the pursuit of lasting solutions. The scholars murmured among themselves, some intrigued, others skeptical, but a few nodded quietly, clearly impressed by the depth of his insight. From the archives, Elias was guided to the Council of Innovation, a chamber filled with devices and machines that were unfamiliar even to human science. Here, the challenge was to identify potential improvements in energy systems, transportation grids, and communication networks without causing disruption. Elias observed, experimented, and applied human ingenuity in ways that were both cautious and bold. He suggested adjustments that optimized efficiency while minimizing risk, demonstrating the ability to solve complex problems creatively. His solutions impressed the alien engineers, who recognized the value of thinking beyond traditional protocols. As the morning progressed, Elias noticed subtle shifts in the attitudes of the court. Advisors who had been critical yesterday were beginning to regard him with tentative respect. The conspirators, though still plotting quietly, found their influence waning as others saw the benefits of his reasoning and insight. Princess Leora, always perceptive, guided him through these social currents, showing him how subtle gestures and careful communication could shape perception as effectively as words or actions. Elias realized that diplomacy was not only about negotiation, but about understanding the human, and alien, tendency to trust, doubt, and reassess based on observed behavior. The afternoon brought a challenge that tested Elias in ways he had not yet experienced, a simulated interstellar crisis. A holographic representation of two alien colonies showed rising tensions, miscommunications, and potential conflict that could escalate into war. Elias was tasked with proposing solutions that would diffuse the situation and restore cooperation. He approached the simulation with the same principles he had applied in real situations: careful observation, empathy, and creative problem-solving. He suggested communication channels, shared goals, and collaborative projects that would allow both colonies to see mutual benefit. As he worked, he noticed that some members of the court were watching not only his solutions but how he arrived at them. They observed his patience, his willingness to listen, and his ability to consider multiple perspectives. These qualities, they realized, were rare even among their own people. Elias began to see that human strength lay not only in intelligence but in adaptability, ethical reasoning, and the capacity to inspire trust. By the end of the exercise, the holographic colonies had been brought to agreement, and even the skeptical observers could not deny the effectiveness of his approach. Later in the day, Elias was called to the Queen's private chambers. The room was vast and illuminated with a soft, golden light that seemed to reflect her presence. She regarded him silently for a long moment, her gaze weighing, assessing, yet not unkind. "Captain Varn," she said finally, "you have continued to demonstrate qualities that are unusual and valuable. Your species shows creativity, judgment, and the capacity for understanding. But qualities alone are not enough. Actions must also reflect the values you claim. The court watches closely. Your choices influence not only your own standing but the perception of your people. Can you bear the responsibility of representation?" "Your Majesty, I understand fully," he replied. "Every decision I make reflects not only on myself but on humanity. I seek to show through action and example that humans are capable of cooperation, wisdom, and resilience. We learn from experience, adapt to challenges, and strive for solutions that honor both principle and practical outcomes." The Queen's expression softened slightly, as if acknowledging the sincerity and depth of his words. After the audience, Elias returned to the chambers where Princess Leora awaited him. She smiled, her eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and encouragement. "You have impressed the court today," she said. "Not through force or brilliance alone, but through the way you think, the way you act, and the way you navigate challenges. Humanity is being seen, not as outsiders, but as a species capable of meaningful contribution. This is rare, even among our most advanced civilizations." Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered by the awareness that the journey was far from over. Recognition was growing, but it was fragile and could be lost if missteps occurred. In the evening, Elias walked through the gardens of the palace, a space filled with alien flora that glowed softly in shades he had never seen before. The air was filled with unfamiliar scents, yet there was a harmony that reminded him of Earth's natural beauty. As he walked, he reflected on the day's lessons. Humans had a tendency to underestimate themselves, yet here, in this alien court, their qualities, creativity, empathy, adaptability, were proving to be strengths that could not be ignored. Every challenge, every test, had reinforced the idea that humanity's value lay not only in skill but in character. The palace remained alive around him, corridors and chambers still echoing with the subtle energy of its inhabitants. Elias thought of the conspirators, whose plots had been thwarted, and of the court members who had begun to recognize the merit of his approach. He thought of the Queen, whose recognition was cautious but significant, and of Princess Leora, whose guidance had been indispensable. He realized that respect was a process, earned slowly through consistent action, wisdom, and integrity. Humanity had taken the first important steps, and now the challenge was to maintain momentum and continue demonstrating the qualities that made them unique. As night fell, Elias found himself once more at the observation deck, gazing out at the stars that stretched endlessly beyond the palace walls. Each one was a reminder of the vastness of the universe, of the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead. Humanity had arrived in a world older and more advanced than their own, yet they were not powerless. Through intelligence, collaboration, and ethical reasoning, humans could navigate even the most complex civilizations and leave a mark of respect and influence. Princess Leora joined him quietly, standing at his side as they both looked at the stars. "Do you see them?" she asked softly. "Each one holds a world, a civilization, a possibility. Humanity has only just begun to understand what it can accomplish. Your people have survived, adapted, and learned. Here, you are showing that you can do more than survive. You can influence, inspire, and contribute." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words. The path was long, and the challenges ahead would test them in ways that were unpredictable, yet the potential for achievement was extraordinary. Together, they watched the night sky, the palace lights reflecting softly in Elia's eyes. The queen had begun to notice, the court had begun to shift, and the conspirators had been exposed, if only partially. Humanity's presence was no longer a question of curiosity alone. It was becoming a factor of consequence. Elias understood that the recognition of his species was not a reward but a responsibility. Every action, every decision, every word could shape the perception of humans and influence the future of interstellar relations. As he retired to his chambers, Elias felt a deep sense of determination. Today had shown that humans could think beyond themselves, solve problems creatively, and act ethically even under observation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and perhaps more subtle tests of character and judgment. Yet he was ready. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger world, and with courage, wisdom, and integrity, it could continue to prove that it belonged among the stars, not as a conqueror, but as a partner, an innovator, and a species capable of leaving a lasting, positive impact on civilizations far beyond its own. The palace settled into quiet stillness, towers glowing softly against the night sky. Elias lay awake for a while, thinking about the delicate balance of perception and action, about the subtle power of understanding and insight, and about the opportunity humanity had earned. It was a fragile beginning, yet it held immense promise. Humanity's story in this alien empire was being written not with force, but with intelligence, ethics, and the courage to act wisely. And in that, Elias found hope, purpose, and the drive to continue proving what humans could accomplish. The palace was quiet in the early morning light, but Captain Elias Varn felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him more than ever. The past days had tested him, his intellect, his patience, and his judgment, and he had begun to earn the tentative respect of the alien court. Yet he knew that recognition was not enough. Today, he would face the ultimate challenge, demonstrating that humanity was capable not only of intelligence and adaptability, but of contributing meaningfully to an interstellar civilization. The Queen's gaze would follow him, the court would watch every move, and even the stars outside seemed to reflect the magnitude of the task. Princess Leora appeared quietly beside him, her presence a comforting constant in the midst of pressure. "Today will define not only your reputation," she said softly, "but the perception of your species for generations to come. The Queen is patient, but she seeks proof that humans can act with wisdom, courage, and foresight, not only in theory but in practice. Trust yourself, and remember what makes your people remarkable: intelligence, adaptability, and heart." Elias nodded, taking a deep breath as he prepared to step once more into the heart of the court. The first part of the day began in the Hall of Decisions, a vast circular chamber where the alien leaders gathered to debate the challenges of their civilization. Today, a real-world problem had been presented for resolution, a resource conflict between two distant colonies, each with competing needs and histories of tension. Humans had not yet directly governed any alien colony, but Elias was asked to provide insight into potential solutions. He studied the details carefully, considering not only logistics but the ethical and social implications of any decision. Elias proposed a solution that balanced both practicality and morality. He suggested shared resource management, transparent communication channels, and cooperative projects that would allow each colony to benefit while respecting the needs of the other. At first, some council members frowned, resistant to ideas that deviated from tradition. Yet as Elias explained his reasoning, highlighting human experiences of cooperation, problem-solving, and compromise, the murmurs of doubt began to fade. Even the skeptics could see the logic and integrity behind his proposal. Princess Leora's quiet nod from across the room reinforced his confidence, reminding him that trust could be nurtured through understanding and thoughtful action. As the day progressed, the queen summoned him to witness a ceremony of reflection, where historical decisions and their consequences were displayed in holographic form. Elias observed wars, alliances, innovations, and failures of the alien civilization, each a lesson in judgment and consequence. The queen's voice resonated through the chamber, explaining the significance of each moment. Elias realized that humans, despite their shorter history, had often faced similar challenges: conflicts to resolve, resources to manage, and the constant struggle to balance ambition with ethics. He spoke carefully, drawing parallels between human experiences and the lessons presented by the alien history. He emphasized that humanity's strength lay not in dominance but in adaptability, creativity, and moral courage. The council listened, some with skepticism, others with quiet curiosity, but many were clearly impressed by the depth of understanding and insight he brought to the discussion. Elias saw that recognition was no longer tentative. His perspective had begun to influence the court's thinking, proving that humans could contribute meaningfully to complex interstellar problems. The afternoon brought a test of leadership. Elias was asked to participate in a simulated crisis, this time involving multiple colonies facing a natural disaster that threatened both lives and resources. The challenge was not only to solve the immediate problem, but to coordinate a response that would minimize harm and build trust between affected parties. Elias approached the simulation with the same principles that had guided him throughout the trials: observation, reasoning, empathy, and strategic planning. He proposed coordinated relief efforts, the sharing of technology and expertise, and a transparent communication strategy that allowed all parties to participate in decision-making. The simulation responded positively, showing reduced casualties, improved cooperation, and stronger trust between the colonies. Observers in the chamber watched closely, noting not only the results but the way Elias approached the task: calmly, ethically, and with creativity. Princess Leora's subtle smile indicated that he had met the highest standards of human ingenuity and ethical action. As the evening approached, Elias was led to a final audience with the queen. The chamber was vast and softly lit, with walls that shimmered gently like liquid crystal. The queen regarded him with a steady gaze, her expression unreadable but intense. "Captain Varn," she began, "you have faced trials of intellect, judgment, and character. You have navigated challenges of diplomacy, ethics, and strategy. You have demonstrated patience, creativity, and courage in the face of uncertainty. Your actions have begun to reveal the potential of your species, and in doing so, you have influenced the perception of humans within this court. Humanity has always sought to learn, to adapt, and to contribute positively. My hope has been to show that our species is capable not only of survival, but of understanding, collaboration, and meaningful action. We do not seek dominance, only the opportunity to participate responsibly and wisely among other civilizations." The queen's eyes softened slightly, a rare sign of approval from a figure who had always maintained a guarded presence. The queen gestured toward the assembled council. "You have earned the attention of this court, and your insight has begun to influence our decisions. You have acted with wisdom, integrity, and foresight. It is not only your personal achievements we acknowledge, but the qualities of your species as a whole. The court recognizes that humans have unique potential, and that potential is now visible to all who observe." Elias felt a swell of pride, tempered by humility. Recognition had been earned not through force or luck, but through consistent demonstration of the values and strengths that defined humanity. Princess Leora stepped forward, her smile broadening. "You have proven what I have long believed," she said. "Humans are remarkable, not only in thought and action but in the courage and creativity with which they approach challenges. You have earned respect, Captain, and in doing so, you have earned a place for humanity in this court. The Queen's acknowledgement is not just a formality, it is recognition of what your species can contribute to a larger universe." Elias nodded, understanding the significance of her words. The court began to shift its tone. Advisors who had been skeptical now spoke in measured agreement, acknowledging the value of Elias' perspectives. Even those who had been quietly opposed to humanity's influence could not deny the effectiveness and integrity demonstrated. Elias realized that his actions had done more than earn recognition. They had begun to change perceptions, showing that humans could act as partners, innovators, and trusted allies in a complex, advanced civilization. As night fell, Elias walked through the palace gardens once more, marveling at the alien flora and softly glowing streams. The air was filled with unfamiliar fragrances, yet there was a harmony that mirrored the city's culture. Beauty intertwined with order, tradition balanced with innovation. Elias reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the moment he stepped onto the palace platform, uncertain and cautious, to now, where his insight, judgment, and moral reasoning had earned him recognition. Humanity had shown that it was capable not only of surviving among the stars, but of contributing meaningfully to the future of interstellar civilization. Princess Leora joined him, gazing at the stars that stretched beyond the palace towers. "Do you see what you have accomplished?" she asked. "Through intelligence, creativity, and courage, you have not only proven yourself but have revealed humanity's potential to those who watch. The Queen's acknowledgement is only the beginning. Your people now have a foundation of trust and respect to build upon." Elias nodded, feeling the depth of her words. He understood that humanity's future in this empire was not guaranteed, but the path had been opened, and it was now in their hands to walk it wisely. The Queen appeared briefly at the garden's entrance, observing Elias and Leora. Her expression was contemplative, yet there was a subtle hint of approval in her posture. "Captain Varn," she said, her voice carrying across the garden, "you have begun a new chapter for your species. This court, and perhaps your people, will remember your actions. Humanity has arrived not merely as visitors but as contributors, capable of shaping and enhancing the worlds they touch. May your path continue with wisdom, courage, and integrity. We will continue to learn, to adapt, and to contribute positively wherever we can." The Queen inclined her head slightly and departed, leaving Elias with a sense of purpose and responsibility greater than any he had ever known. As the night deepened, Elias reflected on the journey that had begun with uncertainty and curiosity, and had now reached a turning point of recognition and respect. He thought of the challenges overcome, the tests of intellect, the ethical dilemmas, the unraveling of the conspiracy, and the delicate navigation of alien politics. Each step had been an opportunity to demonstrate what humanity was capable of, and each action had built a foundation of trust, respect, and potential. He knew the road ahead would still hold trials, yet he also knew that humanity had proven something extraordinary. The stars beyond the palace were no longer distant mysteries to fear. They were possibilities to explore, challenges to meet, and partnerships to build. Humanity had shown that it could act with intelligence, compassion, and courage, leaving a mark not through domination but through understanding, innovation, and integrity. In the quiet of the night, Elias felt a sense of fulfillment, but also anticipation. This was not the end of the journey, it was a beginning. Humanity had been acknowledged, respected, and given the opportunity to contribute to a larger universe. The court, the Queen, and Princess Leora had witnessed what humans could accomplish, and the potential for interstellar collaboration had never been clearer. The palace towers glowed softly against the starry sky, reflecting the promise of a new chapter for humanity. Elias Varn understood that his mission was more than personal achievement. It was the first step in a broader story of exploration, diplomacy, and human influence among the stars. With wisdom, courage, and creativity, humanity could face the unknown, build alliances, and leave a lasting, positive legacy in the galaxy. As he gazed at the endless expanse of stars, Elias smiled, feeling both humility and determination. Humanity had arrived, and it would not be underestimated. Through intelligence, integrity, and the courage to act wisely, humans could thrive, inspire, and contribute meaningfully to the universe. And in that knowledge, he found hope, purpose, and the strength to continue the journey. Beyond the palace, beyond the empire, and into the vast, uncharted cosmos where the potential for discovery, growth, and collaboration was limitless.